We're going to look now at modifying and refining our design. When you're in this context, one thing that is important to the designer is the ability to iterate. When Fusion 360 is creating these shapes, it's doing so from the approach of being able to create a body. One thing you can do is copy that body. So, for instance, if I'm a designer and I've got my basic shape of my handle, a bit like the ones on the screen there, you've got yellow, red and blue. They're basically the same shape, but what you can do, in Fusion, is replicate these shapes. You can copy them multiple times, and then what you can do from that is go into each one and modify it and change it, and make a number of iterations of each one of these particular designs. So from one basic model that you've done, you can create a number of different ideas in a very, very short period of time. So you start out with the same basic concept, duplicate it, and iterate and explore different shapes, all in the same place. Because what you can do in Fusion, using the light bulb, you can turn them on and off. So you can actually have multiple handles, all in the same design, and just turn on and off each one as you're going along, depending on which, to show how each might look. This is another reason why having the unified work environment, where all the components are in a single file, is very useful. So you can create these multiple bodies without having to create these additional external files and just try different things. It's that exploration and experimentation with the original shape that can be really valuable for the industrial design environment. The other elements for refining control are, we mentioned briefly, the element of subdivision. There are a number of different ways to do that in Fusion 360. The ability to use an actual subdivide tool, as well as being able to insert an edge, where you saw in the cylinder example, where there are a number of edges with 8 sets of faces going around the body, with a sets of edges between them, and then 4 sets of faces going down the length of the body with edges between them at the ends. You can add edges to any individual face, number of faces, by using a tool called Insert Edge. You can also use an Insert Point tool to create 2 endpoints and drop an edge in a non-parallel direction if you want to. We also have tools like Bridge, which is powerful for connecting separate faces, which is another thing where people will often fall into trying to create a complex shape by using a loft approach, by creating these super complex profiles and trying to get the whole thing done in one shot. And it's just a pain. Tools like Bridge allow you to build things out separately and in different pieces, and then connect those separate pieces and bring it all together. Some of the other things we will take a look at are some of the box and display modes, which can help to build up and refine the shape. We will also use some additional tools for bringing things together, such as weld vertices, as well as being able to merge an edge. So what we're going to do now is we're going to load up we're going to go into folder 2, which is create and modify conceptual design. Now this brings us a model that's already got the handle that's been created, and then from that we're going to create an individual face, and we're going to use some tools to create some more faces and edges, and eventually we'll bridge between the handle and the new shape that we've done, and using some more of the techniques we'll build up and finally create this end model part of our handle. So that's what we're going to be doing over the next about half an hour or so. So if I now just close down, don't need to save that, data panel. Now one thing when we're in this data panel here, something that I always get not confused with but do automatically is I'll go back there, and if I go back into that, it'll take me right back to my projects folders. which is a bit of a pain when I only wanted to drop one back in a folder. So if I go workshops and events, if I'm in, where was I before? Adoption path, conceptual design. Now I was in this folder before. If I hover over that arrow just there and click, you see I can navigate to the other folders, just back one. So if I wanted to go into the second one there, if I click on that, it will automatically take me to my second folder. And that's the one I want. So again, we're entering this one was saved in the sculpt environment, so it automatically loads up in the sculpt environment. Just OK that, using the X just to remove that display. And if we move on to our front view, so what we can do, you can see now our sort of file structure here. I can fade the canvases if I want. If you want and you think on these new designs now that the canvas is a bit bright or a bit too much in your face, again, in the browser here we've got our canvases. We can open up that. If I right click, edit canvas, I can adjust the opacity of the model there and press OK. So of that canvas. Once again, this is all about construction, but not having to create a lot of construction sketches, but sometimes construction shapes. So under the Create pull-down menu, I'm going to go down and find my Face tool. So if I come down here and I find my Face tool there, click on Face. And the Face tool has a few options. You can create multiple edges, number of sides, different number of sides, number of edges. You can create chain. In this case, I'm just going to do a four-sided shape. So what I want to do is start roughing the face that these vents are cut into, that run down the side of the body. So I'm going to come probably just underneath, around about here. Again, it's asking me, first of all, what work plane do I want to sketch on? I'm just going to come out a little bit, again using the technique to come out, click on that work plane, and if I zoom in, and I'm going to take a point around about here, somewhere there. I'm going to come across, again somewhere down there, somewhere around here, and back to there. And now that's created us our face. The face can be modified. I can grab the edges and the points and move them using edit form. But currently the face is on the XY plane, so I've actually drawn this on the XY plane. I don't want it on the XY plane because if I actually look and spin it round, this is my XY plane, and ideally I want the face to be out here somewhere. So if I go to Modify, Edit Form, and then select this face, go back to my right, using manipulators, I can actually just pull this out there, this face, and if I pull it out to around about 35 millimeters there. Oops. Spin that round, you can see now I've got it outside of my motor. Go to Modify again. Now if we look on our, if I spin this round, if we look here, it looks as though this particular shape curves in a little bit around here. So I'm going to select this edge, and what I can do in edit form, holding the Alt key or your Option key in Mac, so holding that and then using the arrow key, I'm just actually going to spin this round a little bit, because what I'm going to do is use planar key now. Yeah, I'll actually use that one there. So I'm going to use this planar. I'm going to press Alt, and what this is actually going to do, it's going to add material, and I can actually pull this round. We release the Alt key, and I go back in and spin it round again a little bit, you'll see that it's actually added a face on, and now I can actually manipulate and move this around. What I'm going to do as well, looking at this front face, I'm going to select that edge. Using this one here, again I'm going to press the Alt key, and I'm going to bring one out and up a little bit. I'm going to release the Alt key, I'm going to press it again, and I'm going to bring one back slightly that way. So I brought it in and out a little bit at the front. So what I've done just by doing that is started to create this particular shape at the front. If I think I've come a little bit too far, I can just select and I can move these around a little bit if I want. I can, with this one here, just hold on, let me go back to the front view. If I select that, I can spin it around a little bit and I can move it and pull it. So you can see, very just like we did before with the cylinder, I'm just pulling it around there. And if I spin it around a little bit, I can actually, if I wanted to, just pick up on that point. I can just move that point in a little bit if I wanted to there. So very quick, and another quite an easy way of doing that. So what I've been able to do using the edit form is add faces and edges and build up this form. Now that I've added these, if I wanted to add something going down a little bit, if I double click that edge, it will actually select that whole edge. We can add a group by keeping down the Alt key and pulling down and out. So what I can do now with this, I just spin it around a little bit by holding this one, the Alt key. I'm going to add a face, but then I can actually just pull it out a little bit. There. Spin it round, and then don't really want that point being there. I actually just move that point back in again. Spin it round. So you can see we're now actually starting to build up this form shape. Again, that point there, I might just move that back in again a little bit. We're starting to build it up. If I look at the back of it now, so if I spin that around here and just look at the back, that point, let's just move that out a bit and just try and match it up to this. So it's again, it's a lot of freehanding and a lot of eye having a feel of your model, and you can make very finite adjustments with this as we're going along. If you're used to command prompts from Inventor, if you hover whilst you're in a command, your mouse anywhere on the canvas, it'll actually come up with the prompt. So select vertex, edge or face, Alt key to extrude. So just like before, if you're not so sure, where you're up to, just hover the mouse and it'll come up with that command screen for you. Next, what I'm going to do is, if I come here, what I want to do is join. If I just pull that around a little bit, I want to join this face here to these two faces here. I want to actually bridge now this bottom bit. The problem with this is that we want to make sure when we use bridge, we are working with either the same number of edges or edges and faces are multiple. So 2 edges can go into 4 edges, or 2 faces to 4 faces, but nothing can be multiple of 1. So what I can't do is go from this one face to these 2 faces. So what we're going to do now is use the Insert Edge tool. I'm actually going to change this to just be from being 1 edge to being 2 edges. If we go up to Modify and Insert Edge, if I only single click on that, it will only pick that edge and it will try and add one here. If I double click, it will pick the line of edges, which will give much more smoother translation. I've got Manipulator, that I can move that around, but I'm quite happy for it being halfway, which is 0.5. And what you will notice when I click OK, how the shape of the handle changes slightly. There. It's become a little bit more sharper around that point. So we start off with a very smooth profile, and as we start adding these edges, we start adding more detail to the model and then sharpen that transition. So it's actually very easy. So that's why you want to start simple and then start adding the detail to make sure you're going in the right direction. Now we can bridge between these two. So what we can do now, we've got 2 here and we've got 1, 2 on this side as well. Again, up to modify, we've got a bridge tool here. By the way, again with any of these, just like before with the pop-up menu that we could get, if it's got a little arrow at the side of it, you can add it to the top toolbar. So if I wanted to use that bridge, if I clicked on that, it would add it up here to my top toolbar. Again, if I want to get rid of it, if I just click and drag it off, it removes it from it. So again, very simple. You can, set up your interface as you want to work. If I go to bridge, it's asking me now for side 1. So side 1, I'm going to go 1, 2. You'll notice the highlight in yellow. Click on the next arrow to select side 2, 1. This body will be upgraded. Yeah, just OK to that. And 2. What we need to do is make sure that the arrows are pointing in the same direction. The number of faces that we want transitioning between here. What I'm going to do for this is 3. And put 3 between. Here we can preview, or we can't preview, so it's always good to preview so you can actually see whether there's any potential crossing over of meshes or arrows not going in the right direction. Let's go OK, and you'll see there we've now bridged between these 2 shapes. I'll spin that round. It's actually very, very flat, so what I can actually do here, if I select and then shift, select these 2 there, and just modify and just pull them down a touch like that, and then on these 3 here, I'm just going to modify and pull that up. I don't want to do that one. I wanted to do that. Just like that. Just pull them up a touch, just to really smooth that transition of our handle there. You can see how it's now starting to form. Now that we've done that, you'll notice what we need to do now is I want to now pull down. If I look now on the front edge here, I've now got some material that I want to add down here for the bottom of the handle. If I double click that particular edge, you'll notice not only does it just do this bottom edge, but it goes all the way up and round, spin it round up there. And that's because we've got this full handle still at this side. So what I can do, if I just view on my right side, I'm just going to window select this side of the handle, and if I press delete, oops, let's delete it form, just cancel that. Window select, press delete. I've now deleted that part of my handle there. Go back into my view. Now if I double click, it's just picking this bottom edge. If I then edit, what I can do is very quickly holding the Alt key again and the arrow manipulator, I'm just going to pull 1 and I'm just going to pull 2, and I'm going to make sure that it is further down below this particular point of my model. And now what we need to do, now that we've done that, is we're going to bring this section and we're going to bring it over the top here and start joining it up to this part. Now to do that, I'm going to double click this top edge. So what I'm going to do, this top edge up here, Again, I could, if I wanted to do, select, shift, select the next one. But if I actually just hover over, double click, it will click that top edge. And whilst I'm here, I might just scale it down a little bit. I can spin it round a little bit. Maybe I want to manipulate and move it down just a touch. I'm just, again, making finite little changes to my model to manipulate it. The thing and the beauty with this is that as you're going along is that you can actually just, anytime you wanted to, just modify and change any part that you want. So I'm not happy with something, I can just very quickly just modify and move it. What I'm going to do here, once I've highlight all that top, if I hold my Alt key and use this planar one, so hold the Alt key down, I'm going to add a little bit of material there. I'm going to release. I can then manipulate and spin this round. I can, if I want, scale it down a little bit. And I can move it around. Again, Alt key again, Shift. Add another one. Spin it round. Move it. Modify it. Try not to do it too abruptly. Scale that down just a touch. There. Move that round. And then finally what I'm going to do is just one more. So again, Alt. Bring this out to about there. Spin that round. As close as near as damn it to being flush there. What we want to do really is get that at 90 degrees. So one thing I'd like to do is square that end and make it vertical. I've got the whole loop selected. One little hint is using this scale. If I hold on that scale there and actually reduce that scale down, right down to 0. So if I just type in the 0, it will square that up as near as damn it that it can do, and it will then just go for what we need for this modeling that we're doing. Now what I need to do is I now need to start to connect these edges here with these edges here. To do that, let me come over. I'm just going to zoom in. I'm going to actually add just a couple more faces here. So if I come in and then I press the modify edit and just press the Alt key, select and bring up these two faces here, maybe spin them around a little bit, and then I can just zoom in at that, and I might just pull that out a little bit there, pull that a little bit round, touch there. Now rather than use the bridge tool, which would add more faces in here, I just want to directly connect these faces together. So let me just go OK on that. And the tool I'm going to use is the Weld Vertices tool. So if I go into Modify and then Weld Vertices, there, you'll see all the vertices are highlighted. Now what you will notice, if I select that point and I want to weld it to this point here, you'll notice now that my the viewing, it's gone from a smooth model to a square model. It's lost its smoothness, and that's because Fusion's lost the ability to calculate the curvature due to the number of edges not matching, and it reverts back to the spot mode, which shows you two things. The first is the condition of the faces, and the secondly acts as a warning. It's telling me that there's something wrong currently with the model. But if I continue now and select that one to weld to this one, you'll notice now that it's gone back to being smooth. And finally I want that one connecting to that one. So it's now smoothed this area around here, and it's starting to look pretty good. The final bit that we need to do is we need to come across here and create the rest of the handle part of our profile. Now let's just take a minute just to talk about display. We have, so if I just OK that now, if I went back to our edit form tool, at the bottom in selection options under display mode, you can see we have 3 options. We've got box display, got control frame display, and we've got smooth display. What a lot of designers will want to do once they have made their basic shape is to work in box display. What it does do, it shows where we may have some possible transitions which are more severe than they should be, which you can then modify. It can show areas of overlap or pinch points and where there is potential problems. We also have control frame. It shows a skeleton around the body like box mode, but shows you also the curvature. What I want to do is add a few more faces more that will match up with the existing body. So I'm going to go back to my smooth display because that's what I need to do. And I'm going to pick and select one and shift select 2 edges there. So I've got them 2 edges. Then holding the Alt key, I'm going to just pull out one there, so they roughly sort of align with the things that I need to do there. Yeah, so they're roughly aligned. Changing the view. So if I now was to change this, you'll see there's quite a bit of a difference in the Z between these two. But actually, I'm not actually too bothered about that. I could do some adjustments to these, but for this, I'm just gonna do a merge edge. So if I OK that, I zoom back in, spin it around a little bit. So if I go click off to get rid of the selection there, modify, merge edge, and what I'm going to do is go side 1, 1, 2, 3, there, for edge 2, 1, 2, 3, there. If I now press OK, voila, it's now merged the edges. Again, it's not quite tight, but what I can do now is I can select, I can modify, and I can pull out my shape however I want it. So I can now use the manipulation tools to manipulate the body of my shape here. You'll see it's created quite a complex solution through these faces, but it's brought the body together. So if I actually look at that 3-dimensional view again, where we had that quite complex shape, you'll see there it's brought on quite nice, quite well together. And again, it's starting to look pretty good and a bit more like what we need it to look like. The final bit that we need to do with this now is we need to prepare this model for mirroring. So what we want to be able to do eventually is create this model here and mirror it that we've done. And what you'll see at the moment, if I look round here, a lot of these surfaces here, or edges should I say, don't all sit exactly on the plane, the center plane that we need. So what we can do, we've got a tool which is called the flatten tool. This will allow us to align all the edges that we select to either another edge, a plane, or an object that we want to align it to. If I start the flatten tool, so if I go modify and then go to flatten, you'll see what it does. It picks up all the vertex points and it allows me to select the vertex. So if I spin this round, the other thing is I would have to go round each one of these vertex and select them all before then moving on and selecting what plane I'm selecting to and the direction that I'm going in. Here's a little tip, something that's great for classroom. Before I start the flatten tool, if I first of all double select that internal edge there, so that one, and then shift and double select that edge, and then start the flatten tool. So I now go flatten now, there, you'll notice that it's already highlighted all the vertex points that we need to select. I can then select, I'll just use that technique again of zooming out, that point, that plane, there, and it's now flattened all that face to that plane. So I press OK, it's now flattened it. So that's just a little tip. Just select the edges first and then go to the flatten tool. You'll now see that all these are now aligning up on this face. So we're nearly at our completed overall basic shape. However, looking at the top, if I was to look at this top now here, you'll notice that is quite a sharp point. So if I was to mirror it, it will look quite sharp again coming down. So that's not what we want. But the thing is, we don't have to worry about that with Fusion, because Fusion will actually overcome this when we set it up and do the symmetry option. And we can actually do this in the symmetry mirror duplicate option. So duplicate, it asks me what T-spline body do I want to select. So I can actually just select that T-spline body. What mirror plane? So again, just like before, I just need to select a mirror plane. This time if I just come in here and it's the XY plane there, you'll notice how this is smoothed over. If I press OK, I've now got the body of my model. So it makes it very easy to model a form and not have to worry about the complex transition, making it so much easier and such a good quality look. And the other benefits is that if I decide to make a modification, you'll notice this green line that's going through, that's our line of symmetry. So if I was to make if you look there, there's probably something I need to pull out around here. You'll notice it's already selected it on that side. I'll modify. As to pull it out a look, it would automatically pull it out on that side as well. So that's inherent symmetry that is set up. So it makes it very easy to modify, very easy to model a form, not have to worry about the complex transitions. And I think it gives it a right good look as well. So I was to OK that and then finish form, you'll see now the type of shape that we're coming up with. You can see obviously the bits where we need to modify it slightly where the motor's coming through. But again, to do that, you just double click in the timeline. It takes you back into the edit form. He says, edit form. Yep, and then we can just click on wherever we need to do, maybe even just that point, modify, and just pull it out. And you can actually see it starting to modify and change it. It's a pretty simple, not too complex tool to use, and it gives a great looking shape that you can actually quite match to a freehand sketch.